Learning a subject matter often requires that students learn what some have defined as the official knowledge in the field and think as do experts in the field. For example, there are many ways to think mathematically and many ways to use mathematics, including ways that we have yet to realize. Different ways can lead to different social and political outcomes, as when a way of thinking mathematically privileges certain values, or when a way of using math benefits only certain groups in society. Yet those leading the field of math education have incorporated into the learning standards only certain ways of thinking and using. Learning to standards in the disciplines is a practice of repetition, of repeating or perpetuating only certain ways of knowing or doing the disciplines. And since any perspective or practice is partial, learning to standards is a practice that reinforces the privilege of only certain perspectives and groups in society. This is true even when learning how to teach. What counts as the knowledge and skills that students need to learn to become teachers, as defined by state credentialing agencies or national accrediting organizations, have become privileged because certain people asked certain questions and used certain frameworks to produce the answers. What counts as official knowledge in teacher education cannot help but be partial, regardless of how it is defined and by whom. So, while learning more knowledge and becoming learned practitioners may help to address some oppressions in society, it can help to perpetuate others. This is not to say that teachers and students should not be learning what programs are currently teaching. Rather, it is to say that teachers and students need simultaneously to learn about the limitations and political ramifications of their knowledge. Fortunately, some teacher educators are working to steer the movement of making teachers learned practitioners in an anti-oppressive direction. And their work comes in the form of troubling knowledge. Here I mean troubling in both senses of the word. First, troubling knowledge means to complicate knowledge, to make knowledge problematic. This does not mean to reject knowledge. Rather, it means to work paradoxically with knowledge, that is, to simultaneously use knowledge to see what different insights, identities, practices, and changes it makes possible while critically examining what knowledge and how it came to be known, to see what insights and the like it closes off. When teacher educators ask, "What do psychological perspectives tell us about youth and learning?" they also ask, "What other knowledge can we learn from the gaps in psychology or from theories and methods other than psychological ones?" When they ask, "What do the disciplines as currently defined and taught tell us about who we are and the world in which we live?" they also ask, "What are different ways to learn, use, and critique the disciplines, as well as different ways to think disciplinarily?" When they ask, "What does educational research tell us about how to teach?" they also ask, "What are ways that current educational research makes only certain ways of teaching desirable and doable and thinkable?" They tell us that teachers and students need to see knowledge, especially the official knowledge of schools, as political and partial, particularly regarding the standards for learning. Students do need to learn toward the standards, but also need to think critically about the partial nature of the standards. Second, troubling knowledge means knowledge that is disruptive, discomforting, and problematizing. What is not often desired or valued is knowledge that reveals ways that common views of good teaching are neither possible nor desirable, and perhaps more significantly, ways that engaging in what many define as good teaching can actually be quite oppressive. Not surprisingly, what teachers often desire to learn is a comforting knowledge that helps us to stay blinded to those aspects of teaching that we cannot bear to see, especially aspects that comply with oppression. What is comforting, at least at a subconscious level, is a repetition of familiar, commonsensical practices, not disruption and change.